COPWATCH, policing the police every single day.
Say hi, Andy. I'm recording you.
Alright, you get the whole thing, right?
I got you.
Ocean City cops are not people.
Yes, they are. You know what's really criminal?
What's that?
Those knee-high socks.
I know, but that's what the brown shirts wore.
Local GOP officials attack city sign code. Punta Gorda attorney, our code does not prohibit free speech. By Daniel Sudfin. Staff writer. Punta Gorda. The Punta Gorda sign code limiting indecent language has come under fire again, this time from the Charlotte County Republican Party. Since the ordinance was approved by the City Council on June 2, some free speech activists have protested the code, claiming it violates the First Amendment. At Wednesday's City Council meeting, representatives from the local Republican Party Executive Committee called the sign code unconstitutional. Our committee has agreed that the recently enacted Punta Gorda sign ordinance addressing the banning of certain content on signage is in direct violation of our U.S. Constitution First Amendment, which protects our rights to free speech, Committee Chairman Gene Murtha said. Murtha said the state Republican Party of Florida fully supported the challenge. This whole initiative by the city closely parallels restrictive behavior of left-wing communist or right-wing fascist regimes throughout world history, Murtha continued. This is not a partisan issue but a U.S. constitutional right which the city has no right to deny. Punta Gorda resident Bill Abate Mateo echoed Murtha's sentiment. We give elected officials tremendous power, and to make sure they don't abuse it or abandon the Constitution, we make them take an oath and swear to defend. Representing the Charlotte County Republican Party, Committee Chairman Gene Murtha reads a statement calling the Punta Gorda sign code unconstitutional. Sun photo by Daniel Sudfin. It, and trust they will give it the reference it deserves, Abate Mateo said. Punta Gorda seemingly abandoned the Constitution with its new sign ordinance. The City Council did not respond to the comments because the sign code was not an agenda item for the meeting. However, City Attorney David Levin defended the code, saying that it does not violate the First Amendment. Our ordinance does not prohibit free speech, Levin said. He said it prohibits certain exceptions to the protection of free speech, mainly when it comes to protecting minors of the community. I'm somewhat shocked that the party that has long been recognized as a party of family values, protection of children and children's rights, would take the position that our ordinance intended to protect children from signs that they cannot simply look away from would be inappropriate and unconstitutional, he said. The city began reworking its sign code in January 2020 in response to complaints about realtor signs in public areas. As the 2020 U.S. presidential campaign became more contentious, concerns grew to encompass residential flags and signs, the amount of them, and even the language some featured that could be deemed as offensive. The City Council unanimously approved the new sign code in June, limiting residents to a total of 4 displays per property. With the new code, however, the city has also restricted the use of offensive language, defining it as fighting words, indecent speech or obscene, when displayed on signs, flags or even a person's apparel in a public place where it can be viewed by children under the age of 17. YouTube personalities Andrew Sheets and Richard Massey, who protested against the new sign code in recent months, both received fines after the city's Code Enforcement Board found them to be in violation of the ordinance. Code enforcement proceedings involving those fines and additional citations for Sheets are currently ongoing. Email, daniel.sutfin@yourzon.com. Copyright.
Is not, oh, excuse me, that's irrelevant because we stopped doing that. Those are the main items that I'd like to make sure everyone is aware of before we offer citizen comments. At this time, if you have anything on your mind that you would like to speak to the council members about, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. Gene Murtha, Punta Gorda resident and chairman of the Charlotte County Republican Party Executive Committee. At our last 2 monthly meetings of the Charlotte County Republican Executive Committee, it was agreed that the recently enacted Punta Gorda City sign ordinance addressing the banning of certain content on signage, including flags, apparel, or accoutrements, which includes signs or flags on any vehicle or vessel, is in direct violation of our United States Constitution, First Amendment, which protects our rights to free speech. This challenge and the legality of this ordinance is also fully supported by the state Republican Party of Florida. We know that your intentions on controlling crude language may have been well intended, but you cannot let the obnoxious behavior of a few trample on and deny the rights of all others to express themselves as protected by the First Amendment, which is what this ordinance does. We request that the City Council reconsiders this ordinance and eliminates banning specific content. Wording such as Section 11.5 prohibited signs, paragraph Z. This wording is restrictive and wrought with unbridled governmental overreach and attacking the rights to express oneself. Considering it has been enacted in the interim, perhaps the City Council should publish in the Sun newspaper and place on its website the specific and exact list of now forbidden words or graphics in Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda citizens have a right to know what they are now forbidden to use or potentially be fined for expressing. This whole initiative by the city closely parallels restrictive behavior of the left-wing communist or right-wing fascist regimes throughout world history. Those regimes all knew that it was impossible to have an honest and open election without free speech and a free press. So they attacked and banned both. Currently, this ordinance leaves any signage or flag wording up to the discretion of a tribunal of a few and denies the individual from expressing their opinions in the manners which they so choose. This is not a partisan issue, but a United States constitutional right, which the city has absolutely no right to deny. We encourage all Democrats and all independents to join us in this challenge. As I said, we understand the council's good intentions, but this must be reversed, since if not, it will, without a doubt, be shortly heading to the appeals court system. The city does not need to be spending citizens' dollars on legal fees that will undoubtedly be wasted. This is on top of city taxpayers facing a 16% city tax increase, and the city already having received negative press on this issue in the New York Times article dated July 27th, 2021. If you should need any assistance in addressing this issue, please let us know. We look forward to the council quickly addressing this issue to restore the free speech rights of the United States citizens in the city of Punta Gorda. Remember the famous saying, I disapprove of what you say, but will defend to the death your right to say it. This is exactly what we plan to do. We await your decision. Respectfully, G. MURTHA, Chairman of the Charlotte County Republican Executive Committee. Thank you.
And we appreciate it. And always with a smile. That's the best part. So thank you. Okay, would you like to make any comments, Mr. Levin?
They're gone.
Well, that's okay. It's on the
Actually,
record.
they're outside and they can hear us.
Oh, okay.
Well, certainly, they all have the right of free speech to say what they want, to say in this forum. That's what this forum is for. They're all very distinguished members of this community. I think their words are listened to by other members of the community that look up to them. I wish they had done their homework before making accusations regarding the constitutionality of our ordinance. The Cohen versus California case is often cited, as you heard today. That case did not involve an ordinance such as ours. It involved the criminal prosecution of disturbing the peace by a gentleman who had a jacket with the F word on it. The U.S. Supreme Court made it very clear that having the F word on a jacket where there wasn't any type of physical altercation, ruckus response by those that saw it, did not constitute disturbance of the peace that would warrant the criminal prosecution of Mr. Cohen in that case. The court did not overturn other Supreme Court decisions that talked about how fighting words are not protected free speech. The court also did not find that the F word was obscene, as that word has been defined by other Supreme Court decisions. With respect to the fighting words provision, the courts have subsequently said that it has to be something that's directed to an individual of such a nature that would cause that individual to react violently. There was no evidence in the Cohen case that that was any type of a response, nor did the courts feel like that a generalized use of the word, not attacking any one individual, would constitute fighting words. So as it was used in that case, the phrase that was used, the draft, was not considered to be fighting words. But bear in mind, again, that wasn't what he was cited for. He was cited for disturbing the peace. Ultimately, because we have been challenged, there will be a judge that will review our ordinance in the context of the U.S. Supreme Court decisions that were relied upon to construct our ordinance. Our ordinance, for the most part, was intended to be content neutral. That's why we created an ordinance to replace an ordinance that, under the Reed versus Town of Gilbert U.S. Supreme Court case, our previous ordinance would have been struck as content-based. But the Supreme Court has recognized that there are certain classes of words that are not worthy of First Amendment protection. First Amendment protections are not absolute. And in the class of cases that we have referenced and the definitions we've used in our ordinance, those are the exceptions to the First Amendment freedoms. I thought it was interesting that when the gentleman was talking about the Cohen case and what the facts in the Cohen case were, he used the term F word. He knew that it would be inappropriate and indecent for him to use that word in this public setting, particularly when it's being broadcast and it's possible that children under the age of 17 could view it. Our ordinance does not prohibit free speech. Our ordinance prohibits certain exceptions to the protection of free speech, particularly for the protection of the minors in our community. And I'm somewhat shocked that the party that has long been recognized as a party of family values, protection of children, protection of children's rights, would take the position that our ordinance, which is intended to protect children from signs that they cannot simply look away from, would be inappropriate and unconstitutional. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have, under public hearing agenda, we have two ordinances.
Good morning. Thank you for your service. We give elected officials tremendous power, and to make sure they don't abuse it or abandon the Constitution when it pinches, we make them take an oath and swear to defend it, trusting they will give it the reverence it deserves.
Excuse me, could you please state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Bill Mateo, Punta Gorda. Trusting they will give it the reverence it deserves. You took that oath, so did I as a police chief. Punta Gorda seemingly abandoned the Constitution with its new sign ordinance. In 2015, the Supreme Court said in Reed v. Gilbert that if you have to read a sign to determine whether it's prohibited or not, then it's not content neutral, but content-based, stating that you can't impose content-based restrictions on political speech in traditional public forums, such as a sidewalk, as opposed to a limited public forum, such as City Hall. Exceptions must pass strict scrutiny, which requires a compelling governmental interest. Objections to certain words aren't valid exceptions, but you didn't care. City officials declared the ordinance was content neutral. But how? People were cited after authorities read their political signs and determined the messages were prohibited, thus making this ordinance content-based, despite your claims. In '72, the Supreme Court ruled in Cohen v. California that Paul Cohen had a constitutional right to wear a jacket with the words, F the draft, into a crowded courthouse. The court ruled that no matter how offensive that word was or who saw it, his peaceful protest was protected political speech, not obscenity, not fighting words. They declared such words couldn't be suppressed or made illegal. You didn't care and criminalized political speech. The Cohen decision distinguished profanity from obscenity by declaring the F word was an expression of protest, not obscenity. Stating vulgarity can't be interpreted literally. To do so is stupid, ignorant, or naive. Even the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which the ordinance has as its final arbitrator on the meaning of words, defines the F word as to publicly object or criticize. But this was ignored, resulting in fines for simply using foul language. Justice Holland said, if you don't want to look at a word you don't like, then look the other way. That's the legal remedy. When people objected to the display of political speech they didn't like, you didn't tell them to do that. Instead, you placated them and banned protected political speech. Perhaps you didn't see it that way, but that's what you did. He said it wasn't California's job to legislate civility, that states aren't the guardians of public morality or public discourse. You didn't care and passed an ordinance to control what words people use, despite having neither the responsibility nor the authority. Think about this. The Supreme Court allows people to wear a jacket that says F the draft into court, but anyone who wears that jacket into Punta Gorda will be in violation of your law. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
My name is John Beasley. Some of this will be a repeat. Members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. In some ways, we have an advantage. I know you folks work very hard to do the very best that you can in all ways. In a situation like this, you have 30 issues before us. I'm retired, and at least for a day or two, I've only got one. So the one issue here that obviously is the issue of profanity, and it's already been directed to some extent. Is it a violation of the Constitution to use profane words? Well, yes. At one time. In 1942, Justice Murphy stated very famously that that there was a constitutional right to control words that were lewd, obscene, profane, or fighting words. This was a famous case. It directed judges and scholars for the next 30 years. The fighting words case was overturned in 1972. And in that case, as has been mentioned, the name of the case was Cohen versus California. Some background. A man wearing these words went into a California courthouse. The words, as have been mentioned, F the draft. The issue, could he be convicted under a local disturbing the peace law? It went to the Supreme Court. Justice Harlan said no, and the court said no. I said that one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. So this case overturns the fighting words case, but it went further than that. Harlan warned that government might seize upon the censorship of certain words as a way of banning unpopular views. Some might say that is found in the situation before us today. I'd like to make a comment about yard signs.
Sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, real quick. Yard signs, you're not going to be able to regulate yard signs.
Sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, and if I could
Sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Can I make one final comment?
No, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up. We have to be fair to everyone, and we need to keep the meeting moving.
Council members, my name is Jim Buca. I'm a resident of Punta Gorda and Punta Gorda Isles. Surprisingly enough, the primary reason for me showing up here isn't to talk about the sign ordinance. Though the discussion did provoke some thought. As I read the public, comment or whatever it is on the agenda, might understand, and please tell me if I'm mistaken so that I can cease. I might understand that the two items on the agenda are to increase our refuse collection, which includes yard waste, green waste, and the whole lot, and as well as our water sewer. I will take that as a yes, that it will. At what point we have a substantial tax increase coming up that you seem to be intent on pushing forward? We have a seawall assessment that went up $100 more. Are there any avenues available to the city to cease pulling money out of the citizenry? I say these not to be contentious or argumentative. I say them solely for the purpose of producing thought, to provoke the ability to consider your decisions. It's important to us as citizens to make sure that we are well represented. I appreciate your consideration on those matters because I know the public hearing is tonight on those matters. Thinking about the signs, however, I do have a question or something to consider. What if I put up a flag or a yard sign or a bumper sticker or wore a hat or had a shirt that said, "Make love, not war"? I believe by the definitions contained in the ordinance that you would find that objectionable. And I don't know how that could withstand any challenge or appeal. Just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Please get in line and stand behind the speaker so that we can keep the meeting moving if there's anyone else.
My name is Tim Sullivan, and I'm a candidate for the Punta Gorda Isles Canal Advisory Committee.
We will have that in just a minute as soon as citizen comments are over. We have a time on the agenda for anybody who has put their name in for a border.
I didn't know that.
It'll be just in a few minutes, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. My name is Bill Schmidt, Punta Gorda resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Those words are very well spoken because the operative word is speak. I'm concerned about the ordinance that you put together regarding the messaging on the signage. And you know in your own heart that this is not a good idea. This is non-constitutional. You may not like the message. You may not like the character of the person who made the message, but it's still a message, and it is free speech. So I'm just simply asking, would you reconsider and would you please rescind the ordinance that you've put together for the good, I believe, of everyone? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Again, if there's anyone else that plans to speak, would you please get in line and stand behind the speaker so we can keep things going?
Good morning. My name is Jerry O'Halloran, and I also want to discuss briefly about the signage. I'm not going to repeat everything that was already said here, but I do, when I first read about that, my first thinking was that, yes, if this ever makes it to court, it'll be thrown out. That was my first impression. And then I got to thinking, you don't write an ordinance like this without discussing it with a legal authority. So that had to be a given. And I also have to assume that the legal authority probably would not have approved this as a anything that would last, anything that would not be violating the Constitution. Having said that, then I've had to come to the conclusion that the only reason you did it, that you didn't think you'd find anyone objecting to it, and you could probably get away with it. And that's fine, I understand that. In this community, it's a nice community. We're in a very safe community, and we have ladies and gentlemen here, and a big retirement community. Nobody out there likes those signages. Nobody else out there likes to see that. But you've accomplished your mission, and we don't see those signages out there anymore. Now, my opinion, the people that do those vulgarities on a signage, they typically have no imagination. They typically probably have limited vocabulary, and they're looking for attention. These things can go away after a while, but just ignore them. But right now, I think you may have crossed the Constitution line, and I think that's a slippery slope that you probably don't want to go down. I think that would be a mistake. Thank you very much for listening. You have a great day.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Anyone else? Last call. Okay. We will move on to the next agenda item, and that is if there are any